My aim with every dinner is to keep it simple and relatively healthy while also being super cheap and delicious. That's kind of a tall order, but I've compiled a big list of dinners that we pull from, and I'm going to share a few of those with you this week. Hello, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Ashlyn. I am a 26-year-old wife and mom, and we are currently working on paying for a master's degree without any debt, as well as saving up for our first home that we will hopefully have paid off by the time I'm 30. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then I would love it if you would subscribe and help me reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers. So something that I get tons of comments on basically from the beginning of this channel is what we spend on groceries. So in my monthly budgets, I almost always have that set to $300 a month to feed my family. So I wanted to share an example of what a week of meals looks like. For some context, we live in Utah. We are a family of 4. That's me and my husband, and then our 2.5-year-old daughter, and we have a new baby. So really only 3 of us are eating, so it comes out to about $100 per person per month. My aim with every dinner is to make sure that it is cheap and easy to make, as well as being healthier and delicious. That's kind of a tall order, but I've compiled a big list of dinners that we pull from, and I'm going to share a few of those with you this week. First up, we're making a sausage sheet pan. This is one of our favorite meals. So I'm starting with some sweet potato that I've cut up into about 1-inch cubes, putting that on a cookie sheet, and then I am drizzling it with olive oil. Then I will just spread this out on the pan and make sure that it is just in one single layer so none of the potatoes are stacked on top of each other. And I'll stick that in the oven at 400 degrees for about 15 to 20 minutes so that the potatoes are starting to get a little bit more tender. While those are cooking, I'm going to cut up a red onion into just bite-sized pieces, and then I do smoked turkey sausage, but you can kind of use whatever you can find that fits in your budget. I also didn't show this part, but while the potatoes are cooking, I also mix up my maple Dijon mixture. So it is a 1/3 cup of Dijon mustard and a 1/3 cup of pure maple syrup. Just whisk that together. So once the potatoes have come out of the oven, I add the onions and sausage to the pan, as well as broccoli. I use frozen broccoli just because that's what I always have on hand. I will thaw it before I put it on the sheet pan so that it can all cook evenly at the same time. Once those are on there, I sprinkle the whole pan with oregano, and then I will do half of my maple Dijon mixture. And then I stick that back in the oven for another 15 minutes. Once that's come out, I top it with the other half of the maple Dijon mixture. You can also grate some fresh Parmesan on the top, makes it super delicious, and that's it. So for this meal that I'm making today, it is barbecue pulled pork sandwiches with coleslaw and pineapple. And while I wish I was showing you me making it start to finish, I actually made this last night, so I'm just showing you the leftovers. It was a little too crazy and I totally forgot to film. So let me show you what I've got, and I of course will link all of my recipes down below so you can check those out too. So we used to just make barbecue chicken or barbecue pork sandwiches all the time, and I mean those are good. But when you add the fresh coleslaw and the pineapple to it, it just takes these sandwiches over the top, makes them delicious, and it's still super cheap to make. So let me just show you what I've got. So you can use any sandwich bun that you have. You could even use bread if you wanted. I made these last night. I've got a super quick recipe for homemade buns. It took me less than an hour to make it start to finish, kneading, rising, all of it. So these are super delicious. I will have that recipe linked. Then I took some of that pork and I just mixed it with a bottle of, well, some barbecue sauce that we had in the fridge, just the kind in the bottle. So once the meat is on your sandwich, you're going to add some coleslaw. So I just took a coleslaw mix, just the bag from the store, and I added mayo, apple cider vinegar, a little bit of lime juice, some salt and pepper. I will put a recipe in the description, but coleslaw is super easy to make, super quick. And then to finish this sandwich off, I would highly recommend not skipping this step. You add some pineapple. So I like to use fresh pineapple the best. I think it gives it the best flavor, but I just had a can of pineapple chunks this time around, so I just sliced those up smaller so that they are easier to eat and put on the sandwich. I say it for every recipe that I'm gonna have in this video, but this one is delicious. It's one of our very favorites. It's super inexpensive to make, and it's pretty healthy at the same time too. So checks all the boxes and we love it. I think you will too. Tonight we are making one of my very favorite dinners. It's a Mediterranean chicken bake. It's super easy and it's delicious. So let's get started with that. There always seems to be a baby crying, so I'm jumping into a voiceover here. We are cutting up 2 zucchini first, then I'm going to chop up some white onion, and then I'll cut up a chicken breast. I usually cut these into like a 3/4 inch chunk. I just didn't want to show that because raw chicken's gross. But after that, I'm cutting up 2 Roma tomatoes as well. Once I have everything chopped, I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil to a 9x13 pan, and then I'll put in my chicken. I'm topping that with some fresh ground pepper, some salt, garlic powder, and oregano, and then I'll mix that all together and spread it out into an even layer. Then I'm going to top that with my vegetables. I like to do these one layer at a time so I can make sure that they're kind of dispersed evenly throughout the dish. I'm going to sprinkle the vegetables with some more salt and pepper, and then I'm topping it with some shredded mozzarella as well as some shredded Parmesan. Then I'm going to cook this at 400 degrees for 20 minutes. So while that chicken bake is in the oven, I'm going to get started on the rice that's going to go with it. So I mean, you could serve it with whatever rice, cauliflower rice, brown rice, white rice, quinoa, whatever. I like this, seeds of change, brown rice and quinoa with garlic. I probably could figure out how to make it on my own. I've not attempted to, just because this is super easy and we all love it. It also adds 5 grams of protein for every cup that you have, so it's adding even more protein and fiber to the meal, which is something that I like about it. But yeah, I'll just squish it all up and stick it in the microwave for 90 seconds, and we will serve our chicken bake over the top. I am sparing you of watching me chop everything today. I've pre-chopped it, but we are making a caprese chicken skillet. Very similar to the chicken bake I made yesterday. It's a lot of the same ingredients, but it is a caprese style instead of a Mediterranean style. So this is how we make that. So I've got my onion in here with the olive oil. I will cook this over a medium-high heat until the onions are a little bit more translucent. Then I'm going to add in my garlic, and then I'll cook the chicken in there. All right, I've got my chicken in here now. I am going to season this with some oregano. You can hear why I need my dinners to be quick and easy. I've got too many kids crying for me here. I'm gonna have my chicken cook with some oregano, salt and pepper on it, and then we will add the caprese portion of this dinner. All right, my chicken is cooked. I am now going to throw in my tomatoes to cook, but I'm just gonna cook these in, let them kind of sweeten up and soften up a little bit, and then I will throw in my mozzarella. All right, you will see now I have tossed in my quote-unquote mozzarella pearls. I always use string cheese in place of mozzarella pearls because that's just one less ingredient that I have to purchase, and I find that mozzarella is the same whether you buy it as the pearls or the string cheese. I mean, it does the same job. My toddler's losing her mind in the other room, so hopefully you can't hear that, but I am going to top my caprese chicken now with some fresh basil, shredded Parmesan, and then I will do a balsamic glaze over the top. Here is the final product. It's pizza night tonight. Not really something you think of as a healthy meal, but this is one of our go-tos, and I have a few ways that I make it a little bit healthier, starting with the dough. So I'm mixing a 1/2 cup of warm water in a bowl with 1/2 tablespoon of yeast. I use active dry, and then I'll add my sugar to that and mix it up and let that just go to town. This usually takes about 10 minutes for the yeast to be totally active, but it should look foamy when you are ready to start adding your other ingredients. So next up, I am adding some olive oil as well as some salt, and I'll mix that in evenly. And then I'm going to start adding in my flour. So I'm doing 1.5 cups of flour, but I'm adding it in 1/2 cup at a time. So once that's all combined, I'm going to pull my dough out onto my floured countertop, and I'm going to knead it for about 3 minutes until it is smooth and a little bit elastic. Then I'm just going to spread that out into a very thin layer on my cookie sheet. Then I'm going to stick that in the oven for like 5 minutes just to give it a little pre-cook before I add all my toppings on. So for toppings, we're going with just a classic tomato sauce base. We make our tomato sauce at home. It's really just plain tomato sauce from the can. And then I will add in some oregano, salt, pepper, garlic. My husband really likes to add some brown sugar. I don't know if this had brown sugar in it or not. It was just what was left over in our fridge. This next step is a little bit unique. And it's something that I've just recently started doing, but I add some cottage cheese as like my base layer of cheese. It really doesn't add a whole lot of flavor, but it does add a ton of protein to your pizza. So that's a little hack if you want to get some more protein in. After that, I am grating some mozzarella cheese over the top of all of that. And then I'm still in the mood for caprese, even though we just had it. So I am going to be slicing up some more tomatoes. I'll add those to the top, and then I'm sticking that back in the oven to get the crust crispy like I like it and the cheese all melted. And then when it comes out, I'm adding some fresh basil leaves to the top and of course a drizzle of balsamic glaze. Tonight's dinner is another super quick one. I am making some honey lime cilantro pork tacos. I'm starting by zesting a lime into my pot, and then I will squeeze all the juices out into that. And then I'm adding some honey. Then I'm going to add in a little bit of soy sauce. And then I'm adding some garlic in as well. After my sauce was all mixed together, I threw my pork in there so that it was all pretty evenly coated. And then on my taco, just put my cilantro, lime, honey pork, some tomatoes, onions, and some bell pepper that we had. And this turned out delicious. It feels like it's been forever since I've had a minute to talk to the camera this week, especially when it comes to filming dinner. So tonight is the last night of the week, and we are going to be making some pork enchiladas. So I'm starting by mixing about 1 pound of shredded pork with Greek yogurt and enchilada sauce and some shredded cheese, and that's gonna make up the inside of my enchiladas. So now that I've got my filling made, I'm going to get my pan ready. I just spread a very thin layer of some enchilada sauce on the bottom of my pan so that the enchiladas don't stick. This actually hasn't been working super well lately, so I think from now on I'm also going to spray the pan first before I put the enchilada sauce. We'll see if that helps. Just a tip for you. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of the pork mixture into each tortilla. This made about 8 or 9 enchiladas. Kind of just depends on how much filling you want to have in it. You can make more or less based on how much you're putting in. But after I've filled and rolled all of my enchiladas, I will pour the rest of my enchilada sauce on the top, and then I'm going to grate my cheese. I didn't actually realize that we were pretty much out of cheese. I tried to use the more fine part of my cheese grater, and that made it kind of look weird, but still tasted fine, and then I felt like it needed a little bit more cheese, so I just ripped up another one of our string cheese. But then I just stuck that in the oven at 350 and for about 35 to 40 minutes. I of course will have all of the recipes linked down below in the description so you can check those out and make these for yourself. I would love to know if you try any of these recipes, what you think of them. I definitely would suggest trying that Mediterranean chicken bake. It is probably my favorite go-to meal right now. That said, if you enjoyed this video and seeing the kinds of meals that we're making, then I would love it if you would subscribe and help me reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers on this channel. As always, I will see you again next week for another video. Bye!